Hey, Podnutzians. Hope everyone out there is doing pretty good. We'll say I have off work tomorrow. Kid at the dentist appointment, so got kind of lucky with that. Timing is everything. Okay, let's see if this is the right plug. This is. Ah, I do finally have an export of my OPML file, so I can stop being completely incompetent about that. It only took a couple months. Got my on-call phone here because technically I'm on call. I want to be a good boy. Make sure this thing's working. That is. Okay. So, yep, that is working. Now, hypothetically, did it just go again? I think it did. Wow, okay. So, I need to remember that. So, now let me see if start streaming. I need to remember. It's literally like it's not plug and play. If I literally turn it off or turn it on, the HDMI capture, I turn it off or turn it on when OBS is already running. It does not like that at all. Okay, so technically that's working. That's good. If anybody there does want to join the conversation, the very first link in this YouTube video should be to the Discord server. And there's the live streaming, and there's the green room. Nobody can enter the green room. I mean, nobody can enter the live streaming. You can only enter the green room, and then I have to like drag and drop you into the live streaming part. Worst case scenario. I actually had next to no uh emails, is what I'll say. Except for people just saying there's not been episodes in a while. Basically, it's the most of it kind of thing. I did want to do just a quick like health thing. Yeah, I know I'm live. I'm the one that hit the live button. YouTube, thank you. But let me just verify. That is that. That is that. That is that. And that is that. Okay, so that is working good. Okay, if I am going to do a DDG, let me talk this out and say first document a couple things. Well, A, I got to thank people because that's what you guys should do. But two, this would be episode number 26. So let's go like this. Let's come over to this note. 26. Episode 26. I have my OPML file. I am tempted to literally like go through and highlight some of the actual shows that I listen to because there's too many. I mean, not trying to sound dumb, but it's a lot of shows. Download podcast, open with. I do like that function. I do like that feature. Okay, let me close. I'll close that. Close that. Yeah. So it starts at line 10. That's easy. That makes it easy. Actually, sorry, line 9. And goes down to 165. So it's 155 is the number of shows in this. opium alpha. That's a lot of podcast. And for some reason, this octopi will not finish doing updates. I'm going to stupidly do a refresh in the browser. Let's see what happens. If for some reason the network on that Raspberry Pi wireless is never stable. Software updater does look like I can update. Oh no, installed 1.3.12, available 1.3.12. So check for updates. Everything's up to date. Good. So close. Let me reboot just for giggles. Reboot the system because I like rebooting it. Okay, good. And then just for giggles, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the last, really what was Google Stadia. Support those who support you. Best Stadia podcast. Keto numbers, Skeptoid, email Eric, TechCon Unplugged, Scott's Irish, Pursuit of Happiness, Navigating Digital Information. That's still a fabulous um, series. I keep shoving at people. Kotaku split screen. Did I don't think I subscribed to that one anymore. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, a little bit too hipster popular for me. Okay, let me see. Oh, why did that close? I'm gonna try to monitor the YouTube chat. So if anybody wants to join in, you can. I'll keep trying to be periodically looking at the live stream, the green room on the Discord server. For giggles, what I'm going to do first, because why not? Oh, I'm not signed in. That's a good reason why that didn't work. Okay. Go like this. Come down here to door. So good. Now I have the YouTube chat there, I have the Discord chat there. That's good. Okay. So now, let me see this. This should work well. Gotcha. Fits. I will say, this is still like one of my favorite devices I ever bought. GPD gamepad digital, um, with multiple shoulder buttons, HDMI, micro SD, USB, analog headphone jack. Literally the exact like size of a phone screen up top. Control buttons. Um, if the game supports, if a app or game you're using supports controllers natively, which there's actually more than a couple that do, um, the thing just works like butter. I bought it at least 3 years ago for $150 something. It's still about $150. Um, and I still get easily 10 hours battery life with it. I haven't booted it in a while, so I gotta let it go through its updates. And my kids installed Roblox on it. As a dad, that makes me sad. Roblox. Minecraft I'll put up with. I did learn that in my kids' school, they literally load Minecraft Education Edition, which I had no idea even existed. And my youngest tried his best to explain to me what it was. He said the thing he liked about it the most was that it encouraged teamwork, and you could like take elements to make compounds, which that just sounds to me like normal Minecraft, where you're crafting. It's Minecraft. Um, okay, let me think here. Oh yeah. I know if I invite Craig into the live stream chat, Craig will do a multi-channel recording for me. Now, how did I do this before? There you go. I have to say, and I'm doing this in the voice text chat room because it just makes it easier. join live. That's what I type right. STREAMING. So if I hit enter, Craig should. Oh, Craig can't because he can't because nobody has because Craig doesn't have permissions because he's not an admin. So let me do this. If I say Craig join green room. Didn't do that either. So maybe something changed with Craig. Let me try this again. So maybe I had to, yeah, maybe I had to put that comma there. So let me just try this. No, Craig is not working. How is Craig not working? Something must have changed with Craig. Okay. Okay, so let me go like this and say Discord Craig bot. Recording bot tools. Oh, here it is. Oh, commands and features. There you go. That's what it is. Okay, so I'm just going to copy it again. See if I can get the damn thing working this time. And we're going to say I know, I can tell you right now, this looks different. No Craig. Huh. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong. So let's come here. Invite Craig to my Discord server. Okay, select a server. Try it again. Maybe I have to reauthorize. There you go. Okay, so now I'm going to try just doing it straight to live stream, see if that works. Okay, so at least he responded, right? Yeah, that's good. He failed soft. He says, can't see any channel with that name. Good job, Craig. So now, if I drag I've been unexpectedly disconnected. So I have to grant Craig permissions. So I'm going to try that again. Okay. So rolls, bang, bang. Okay. So now I'm going to, he needs to leave. Okay. But now, if I say this, it should work. Maybe I did it wrong. Roll. No, that. So I'm going to try it again to straight. Okay, for giggles, let's try to give permissions. Sure, yeah. Let's make sure I'm not like mistyping this.
Now recording.
There you go. Okay, so that only took 20 minutes. So now, he should have PM'd me, and he did. He PM'd me the download link. Which I will say, the way they do this is genius. So let me copy the link, and I'm going to copy it over to here. I'm also going to copy it over to here, just so I have it as backups. Badang, that's good. Okay. Um, good. So now I have the multi-channel recording going on inside Discord. Now I will say, if I ever do this again, I literally have to set like a timer, because I do believe after 1 hour this bot will stop recording. And I don't think it gives me an audio indicator that it stopped recording, which is not good. Okay. Let's say this. Okay. Hey, Podnutzians. Welcome to DDG. Hey, Podnutzians. Welcome to DDG episode 26. It's been more than a couple months, I'll say, since I did the last show. I will say everything in life seems to come in waves. Um, it's not like I've been too busy to do a show. I will say I've been preoccupied to do a show. Got a lot of things happening, I'll say, since the last episode. I will say the Eric Ardini GoFundMe is still up there if you want to help his family out with their change in life. I'll say you can go ahead and follow the link in the notes to go support that. One thing I promised more than a couple times was I will give a update on my health stuff and my OPML file. The health stuff, I'll say, I have not now had I think I had one doctor's appointment in the last 6 months, um, for like general health. And I'll say my A1C is 5.5 kind of thing, right? Like where they said that they wanted it to be. The diet is still incredibly restrictive, is what I will say. Um, no sugars, maybe 2 or 3 grams of sugars a day. Carbs. Some days I do go upwards of like 40 or 80 carbs. I will say I try to do that less than 2 days a week. But for the most part, it's still really low numbers. I will say one drastic shift in my eating habits has been I'm doing also more calorie restrictive diet, because at my lowest point, I want to say before, I was down to like 189, 186, something like that. Um, and then around 5, 6 months ago, when I had my last doctor's appointment, I was up to 200 and I think it was 12 pounds. So I put on more than 20 pounds, is what I'll say. So then I started doing a calorie restricted diet where it's a little bit, I will say, insane. And I've had more than a couple people like verbally tongue lash me when I tell them what I'm doing. So get ready. Okay. Um every day I'll say this is different. What I'll say is there's like 2 or 3 days a week I try to hit a low number. There's 2 or 3 days a week. There's 2 days a week I allow myself to eat high numbers of calories. On the low end, 2 days a week, sometimes three, I hit as low as 600 calories a day. Um, if I'm, like really like hurting, I'll go upwards as high as 800 calories in a day. Um, then like 2 or 3 days, I'll go to like 1,200 calories a day, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200. So now that you're up to like 4 days a week there, because it's like 2 to 3, about 4 days a week. So then the other 3 days of the week, one of the days I do between 12 and 16. And then one day I just don't even count the calories. I just eat what I want to eat. And then one day I have one good meal and I don't go crazy. So I'm sure that's close to 2,000. The day I don't count my calories, I'm sure it's between 2,300 and 3,000 calories is what I'll say. I'm pretty sure, pretty confident. Um, I did have to go to the doctors less than 3 weeks ago now, for pneumonia. And when they took my weight, I was 184. So I'm feeling really good about that. And when I asked the doctor, not my normal doctor, because couldn't see them. I asked, I had a thing come over this, and I thought it wanted me to take a blood test, but I tried to click it and it didn't work, blah, 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 you know. And the doctor said, well, the last time you did have a blood test, your A1C was 5.5. So no, she said, um, if my patient has a 5.5 and consistent like you have been, I will not have them do a blood test for at least a year unless you tell me you're feeling bad or something's changed with you. And I said, no, no, I don't. I said, I'm not going to lie. I was going to ask for a blood test just to make myself feel better, um, because I do think I'm doing good. And she said, well, if you think you're doing good, don't worry about it. Um, I will say during the Thanksgiving holiday, had a cold, developed into bronchitis, developed into pneumonia, and my sister-in-law basically at the same time pneumonia. So we both sounded horribly disgusting. Neither of us were contagious, which is good. Um, but just sounded horrible, sounded really bad. Still went to work just because things had to get done. Um, uh, they gave me a Z pack when I went to like the clinic. And then after 3 days, I literally did not feel better at all. Still felt like once in a while, like I was having a fever, and just couldn't stop coughing. So then when I went to my doctor, they told me to throw the Z pack away, gave me an antibiotic, gave me steroids, and a inhaler. 3 to 4 days, I actually started to finally feel better. I'm still not 100%. And that was around Thanksgiving. We're now, December 16th. But I'm definitely better. I'm not done yet. I cough. I still feel a lot of stuff moving around. Um, and I will say, that if that's the worst thing that's happened to me, then health wise for the last like 6, 8 months, that to me is not bad at all. Um, and I even told my doctor straight up. I said, look, I'm trying to do everything in my power to not start exercising right now because I know once I start exercising, I'm going to have to do it long term. You the body doesn't take well when you start and stop things. So I said, I literally want to wait until I'm really ready to start. And I said, more than likely, as soon as I do start, I'm going to ask you about seeing a orthopedist for uh, a second degree separated shoulder, see if I can get some physical therapy on it, or do I need surgery? Partially torn meniscus with my knee. Do I need therapy? Do I need surgery on it? Because I know if I start to exercise, it's literally going to aggravate those things. And I want to try to lose as much weight before that and then literally go into it as slow as possible. The way I equate exercising is like podcast listening. That's my attempt at a transition. With podcast listening, on a lot of podcasts, I'm up to 4.5 speed or 5 speed, even for some podcasts. And it's not something you do overnight. It literally took years for me to get up to that speed. Back when I was in cross country in school and stuff like that, it literally took me years to run a 5 minute mile. It wasn't just something you just start to run and you just did a 5 minute mile. So when I do the exercise thing, I'm literally going to take it in commonly incredibly slow. And I even said to and my doctor makes it very clear that when I say certain things, he's not agreeing with me, but he won't tell me I'm wrong either. He says it's good for you to do your own research. It's good for you to take like your own active role in this. But like I said to him, one of the things was, there's been a lot of studies here recently saying that there's a amount of exercise where there's a diminishing return. And it's just like anything else in life, there's a peak payoff you can get. And then afterwards, you're doing a lot more work with a lot less payoff. With exercising, it looks like if you're looking for not like muscle buildup kind of thing, if you're just looking for like heart health kind of thing, cardiovascular health, peak exercise is around a half an hour spurt. You go longer than a half an hour and then you're not seeing as much of a benefit. If you're doing shorter than a half an hour, you're not seeing as much of a benefit. So the logic is you work out for about a half an hour with an accelerated heart rate. You take a break and then you do another half hour kind of thing. You don't run ultra marathons kind of thing. Um, Not especially in the beginning. Um, and I said that to him, and he will not tell me I'm right. He will not tell me I'm wrong. He will just tell me it's good for you that you're doing research, just trying to be supportive. You know what I mean? Which I will say, I do think the best kind of doctor out there will not tell you you're wrong unless you are literally damaging yourself, but will just encourage you to take like an active role in doing things. Um, One of the tangent things I will say is I want to thank everyone for their Patreon support. For those who don't know, I'll just go in a little bit back in time. I got false reported to Amazon back when we had an Amazon affiliate link where the person told Amazon that I was giving people discounts to my products. They would use my Amazon affiliate link. And that's what Amazon told me. And then I asked Amazon, can you look on my site for anything that I even sell? Because I can't give anybody a discount because I don't sell anything. They didn't care. They killed my account. So that was literally a huge amount of the uh, revenue coming into Podnutz for things like trips, for events, for conferences, for swag, for mini computers, stuff like that. And that basically went away. So we've been doing the Patreon thing, and it's been honestly doing much better than I ever thought. Um, we have more than a couple people who joined patreon.com/podnuts. That's what I'll call the main one. Um, we have also more than a couple people who have joined the patreon.com/mini PC show, which I will say is a lot of fun to do. The Patreon of that is much lower. Um, the newest Patreon people we have is for the main account is Brandon Sweden Melon Bread, which I will say Melon Bread is maybe one of the best names ever. Um, Jonas from the makers. He's another Patreon guy who I will say unbelievably nice guy. I swear we're trying to do more episodes of the makers. It's really difficult to get everybody back up to speed, I'll say, and I do blame myself. Another Patreon supporter, Robert Michael and Michael Maltari. Um, I'm sure I can go back and get more, like Matthew Barnes. And I will say Jordan Brown. And there's more, there's more. Um, I will say it's the easiest way to support the network, I will say. And I do the Patreon per month. Don't do it per episode. Because some months I do a lot of episodes, some months I do less episodes, and I want you, the supporter, for you to know exactly how much you're going to be donating ahead of time. So I try to do things that way. The podcast OPML file will be linked in the notes. It's being hosted on my Google Drive. I'm just going to quickly go through some of this list. 60-second science. It is exactly what it sounds like. 78 degrees, I'll say, is an interesting one. I don't want to say it's like a drama based one, but it's a little bit, off is what I'll say. 99% invisible is unbelievably like heavily scummy in the sense of ads and self promotion, but does have some decent content to it. Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy, I believe, is done. I believe it's off the air. I still have it in my feed thing just in case. Adam Ruins Everything. It's something that I partake with my kids. Kids really like his content. So it's something that I listen to and watch, and I talk to them. It's for conversational purposes. The best thing about his show, I believe, is he cites everything he talks about, so you can see when he says a fact, you can see where the fact came from. I like his show just because to me it helps my kids learn to question things. Um, After that, we have All About Android. You should know what that is already. Alphabet Scoop, I'll say, is an actual really interesting podcast from the guys from 9 to 5 Google. Everything about the company Alphabet, Google, and everybody. Do I think content? It's among the top, I would say, 10 to 15 in my feed. After that, Android App Addicts, Android Buffet Podcast. I will say, I really do want to email Guru and Jerry and ask them, just change the damn name of the podcast. You're not an Android Buffet podcast anymore. 90% of the content you talk about has nothing to do with Android. Um, it's a pet peeve of mine. Have a show called something and yet not talk about that thing. Kind of like the daily source code, not talking about source code. It's just a pet peeve. After that, Android Central Podcast, and then Android Developers Backstage. I like how these are back to back in my list because they're completely opposite. Android Central Podcast is a journalistic viewpoint on everything, which means it's unbelievably skewed. They literally have no common sense and they shove things down your throat because they think it's good for their business. And that's the truth. And then you have Android developers backstage where you literally have people who don't know how to talk to people talking about code. These are the hardcore nerds talking about the back end systems in a very intimate and passionate way. Um, I love listening to those shows, to be honest, back to back, because it really does show me like two of the extremes when it comes to Android podcasting. After that, we have AVXL, Patrick Norton, and the other guy from DLTV. I can't believe I can't remember his name. Unbelievably passionate guys about everything audio video. Um, and I'll say it just like this: really, really smart guys. Um, those are the kind of people I really do like to support on Patreon. Hey, Red, good to see you in the chat. After that, and I'll say this is an example of a podcast feed that I hate because their ads are insane. Literally have complete episodes in the feed that are just ad spots where they're getting paid to put an entire show of somebody else's show in their feed. But I'm still subscribed because the actual show is really good and it's called Blackout. Blackout is an example of Hollywood coming into the realm of podcast to try to take over, which I'm morally against. But the main star of this show is Mr. Robot, uh, um, actor star Rala Malik. I This is a really good drama, is what I'll say. It's a completely fictional drama, but I like what they're doing. I like him. So I subscribe, even though it's really bad when it comes to ads. It is nearly sickening with ads. Um, and now you're going to hear a lot of news podcast, is what I'm going to say in this stream. Uh, but I assure you, I listen to every single bit kind of news. The example I use is when I tell people I listen to everything from Ancient Aliens to Carl Sagan Cosmos. That should really cement that, the spectrum is quite wide. Um, we have Bloomberg Best, Bloomberg Business Week. Then we have Book Nuts, just in case Tracy comes back on and does stuff. Brain Stuff, which I think is a fantastic little short podcast. Brevity with Ozzy, OZY. That is almost like a news podcast, but it's really more of like a teaser topical podcast. After that, we have CBC News World Reports. After that, we have CNBC Fast Money. After that, we have Command Line Heroes. And I will say, I do encourage anybody who wants to know about Linux, Libra, free software, floss, ecosystem, Linux, especially if you want to know about Red Hat, you should subscribe to Command Line Heroes, but it comes with a caveat. They don't talk about commands. They don't talk about command lines. They actually don't talk about the actual people behind the command line, the heroes of the command line. There's no 20-hour dissertation about Grace Hopper. You know what I mean? No, because they don't. It really is a company sponsored podcast from Red Hat about things that they believe that make Red Hat great and things that they believe could support Red Hat in the background kind of thing. Um, it's a very passionate podcast hosted by a very smart person. I can't remember her name. Obviously, she's sickeningly smart. Um, and it's obvious she cares about the content that she delivers, but I really wish it wasn't called Command Line Heroes. like once in a while they'll go into like what a compiler is, Grace Hopper. Where did a compiler come from? What is C plus? What is C plus plus? Where do these programming languages come from? Kind of thing. Assembly language, uh, so it's interesting. It's the kind of podcast I personally take with a grain of salt because I know it's very heavily um just trying to change your opinion, change your mind about things. So it's just okay. After that, I have what I consider to be one of the best podcasts I ever listened to in my feed, even though there's going to be no new episodes coming out, just because it's that good. And it is Common Sense with Dan Carlin. Dan Carlin. It's hard to say there's a better podcaster out there for the masses than Dan Carlin. Computer business marketing show, Matt Rodella, fantastic show, really smart guy. Next one is Cool Tools. Cool Tools to me is one of the diamonds in the rough. I cannot believe it's not 10 times more popular than it is. All it is, it's two guys have hacker minded folks on, hacker minded maker folks on, where all they do is they talk about tools of the trade. It might be something involving wood, it might be something involving metal, it might be something involving code, it might be something involving making sweet tea. Who knows? Any little gadget or tip or hack that they use to get things done. Tools is fantastic. For that we have Cornell Tech at Bloomberg podcast. Curiosity Daily is the next one. That one to me is fantastic as well. It's two privileged white people. I'll just say that. Going over things that they quote unquote learned. It is obviously data driven show where there are people doing these articles. These two people are just digesting the articles and giving them to you in really quick bursts. It's like a 5-minute podcast, but the content they have is some of the best quick content. It's very easily summarized, and I love the fact that even there was one about going to the grocery store and how you buy stuff you never intended on buying. Um, you know, X number of minutes after you walk in the store, your brain starts to shut down, kind of thing. And I love the fact that it was such a short podcast. I could even let my wife and my kids listen to it as we were sitting in the grocery store parking lot. They were eating their food before we went into the store because you never want to go into a grocery store. Um, Curiosity Daily is very good. Again, that's among the top like 7 or 8 podcasts that I listen to. At Diaries, it's about the hacker dose. Another, I'll say this, fantastic podcast. Obviously, the amount of work this guy puts into the podcast is crazy, is what I'll say. No problem saying that. Absolutely crazy. Darknet Diaries is fantastic. DDG, Dear Hank and John, Hank Green, John Green. If you don't know who they are, they're kind of important. They seem like really nice guys, and they try to have fun. Their podcast. After that, Distro Watch Weekly. And that one I will say is Bruce Patterson, unbelievably nice guy, unbelievably good content, a very easy way to keep up on all of the news happenings with Linux with very little biases thrown in. Where every other Linux podcast, including mine, is with biases. That podcast does not have a lot of it in there. Then we have Economist Radio. Economist Radio is actually pretty interesting. I'll say that they take a lot of different viewpoints on a lot of different things happening all over the world. And I take that as being like a general education type podcast. Um, we have actually with Adam Conover, short pause. Adam ruins everything. I don't even know if it's being done anymore. That is Adam Conover's television show. With Adam Conover. I don't know if it's a next television show or it's literally just a podcast, but it's him doing the same kind of things, taking deep dives, talking to individuals. I will say this is another feed that I find uncommonly scummy. Where once in a while they'll literally what can't remember the word that they use, but they'll literally have an entire episode of somebody else's show. They call it like an invasion or whatever. No, it's called selling out is what it's called. You just play somebody else's show in its entirety in your feed, like you subscribe to it, even though you did. Be prepared to have stuff you're going to just instantly delete. After that, we have Flash Forward. I'll just say Flash Forward is one of those casts. I like it just because it makes me think. Take hypotheticals, take a lot of privileges. You know what I mean? They take a lot of privileges. Hypothetically, what could X look like in 20, 40, 100 years? And how did we get there? It can do anything, whether it is singularity, warp speed, time travel, AI, you know, nuclear fallout, very interesting look at what could happen. Flossly, I subscribe, even though it is literally, I think, still one of the worst podcasts I've ever listened to because it's not a podcast. Host doesn't even run Linux. Um, take that for what it is. Schwartz is an incredibly smart guy, maybe one of the smartest podcasters I ever listened to. But if there's one thing I know, and that is James Randi taught me that the educated people are the easiest to fool themselves about things they don't know. And it's painfully obvious Randall Schwartz knows nothing about this, and yet he's the host of Floss Weekly. You know, good for him to do it. But I'm glad the show exists, but it is sometimes some of the worst content I've ever digested. Freakonomics Radio, again, hyper polarized, partisan type content with incredible amount of ads strewn through it. But and once in a while they have like a takeover show come in, which is again, I can't stand. The good with Freakonomics Radio makes it worth it. So I still subscribe to Freakonomics, and I will keep it. One I will say is its own thing. Where I can put it, called Free to Choose Media Podcast. Um, Free to Choose was a television series put out by Milton Friedman in, I want to say, late 70s, possibly early 80s. Milton Friedman, a Nobel Prize winning economist, who I'll say was right about a lot of things, or was wrong about a lot of things. But what he wanted to do was he wanted to make a work up, a show up, a community up. People were encouraged to speak their mind and learn off of each other. That's what the Free to Choose Media podcast and their YouTube channel and their website is all about. It's trying to just learning about each other and how societies and civilizations work and what's best for people. The example I'll use is things that they like say is one of the facts that you cannot. If you want to measure the overall success of a civilization or a country or a culture, simply measure the education level of the woman in the community. Higher their education level is, higher everybody's education level is, the mortality rate, I believe I have that right. Lower the mortality rate, the lower the number of kids they have, higher overall health they have, the higher income the family has. So it's one of those key indicators kind of thing. And that's the kind of thing that they urge on the Free to Choose Media podcast on the civilizations kind of thing. After that, a bunch of news based ones. Financial Times Banking Weekly, Financial Times Money Show, Financial Times News Briefing, Financial Times News in Focus, Financial Times Tectonic, Financial Times World Weekly. I will say the Tectonic one, heavily tech focused, very heavily tech focused, and to be honest, once in a while, super interesting on talking about super interesting things, not just blockchain related, but literally, stuff about like EV cars, automated cars, smart grids, how they can actually impact areas kind of thing. So to me, that was a very interesting one. For that, we have gadgets and tech spoken Mission. Okay. Geek Mark Cockrell, fantastic show when it comes out. Geeksters, because I never know when Martin's going to pop in and have time. Geek Wire. Geek Wire is it's one of these weird ones. It's hard for me to really classify. I believe this is one of the ones from the people up in Seattle area. Literally, like, if in your mind when you're listening to them, they're like hugging Amazon and Microsoft because they're the best things ever. They can't do any wrong, kind of thing. With that said, they still have some interesting topics of discussion and some interesting conversations. Still subscribe. It is good. After that, we have Global News Hour at 6. I believe is Global BC, British Columbia. After that, we have the News Podcast, which I believe is BBC News. After that, GNU World Order. That is Klaatu, one of the hallmarks, one of the staples in Linux, around Linux. Extreme open source advocate, free software advocate, extreme advocate. Really is what I'll say. And I like the fact that when I listen to his shows, in air quotes, season to season, I literally have no idea what he's going to talk about. And then to me, again, this is kind of like, these are funny that these are back to back because they're not each other. But after that, we have Going Linux is the New World Order is the hardcore nerd doing his best to communicate with everybody else, kind of thing. Going Linux, two of the most normal, who I think are very socially adept and with people and, have normal relationships and go to like parties and stuff and that kind of thing. Not hardcore nerds, just normal guys with a true passion about Linux, talk about Linux, how to do things in Linux, who went to Linux and how to get things done on Linux. That is, I will say right now, it's like 3-4 years of my life, the Linux podcast that whenever I see a new episode in my feed, I stop everything and I listen to that first. Because Larry Bushy and Bill, they're the most honest to themselves and honest to each other about everything involving Linux. They still like go around Microsoft bashing because, they're tired of getting hate mail about, but, they do. Then we have healthcare triage. Um, I'll say this: no one fix to healthcare. There's no one thing wrong with healthcare in this country. This guy's take on it, because he literally examines the world's healthcare systems, and he is an actual doctor and he is an actual physician and he does actually write papers up. So he is really smart. I'll just say a very interesting show. Then we have Hello Internet, with CP Greg and the number file guy. It is amazing, like, privileged they are. At the same token, like, once every show they have a conversation, find incredibly, like, interesting. That I wouldn't listen to them, but I do. Then we have Hello Internet. Sorry, Nintendo. It's a bunch of Nintendo journalists talking to Nintendo journalists, talking about the journalists, trying to like one up or to try to like talk to Nintendo journalists is what I'll say. I like just knowing about the newest games, so I subscribe to that. After that, Pixels podcast. I'm not even sure this podcast is even still on. Let me see if I can copy it and let's go see. Because I don't remember hearing an episode of that. Uh, I will say, looking at the XML file or the RSS file, browser sure doesn't help. No. I'm not sure why this is in my feed because I think I literally listened to only one episode, but it's there. It's in my feed, so I guess it's there. After that, we have full controversies again. Amount of ads, literally sickening amount of ads. At the same token, really passionate guy, really good conversations. History Unplugged podcast. Again, I believe this is also sickeningly ads, but really interesting. Chicken, Sean Johnson and his wife, horror movies, everything in his power, in her power to just rag on him nonstop. That alone's worth it. Nightwise.com. Funny again, these are guys are back to back. The impression Sean's not a big fan of Nightwise. Eyes, tips and tweaks for cross-platform geeks. That's all you need to know, and that's his tagline. Spoken edition is basically like Life Hacker in audio form. So the rest of us, a Linux Reality Podcast. That show has not had an episode now for 8 years, I believe, but still at least once a year listen to more than a couple episodes of that because that is by far the best Linux podcast that ever existed. Period. Now we have Linux Gamecast, Linux and gaming. Nobody else comes even remotely close, credible and knowledgeable as these guys. But if you're easily offended, they will offend crap out of you. You have to have a thick skin, but if you are willing to have a thick skin, you will learn a lot. We have Linux Lugcast. This was the one of the shows that 5150 was on a lot. Magoo and a bunch of other guys basically sit down times a month, chat. Anybody's welcome to come on the show. So if you want to just with people about Linux, some of the nicest guys there are, hesitate. Lugcast, all one word. You can go there and hang out with them. Making Sense with Sam Harris. Again, a extreme gripe about the name of a podcast because this is again proof how the smartest people convince themselves of something and be just completely wrong. Harris is a smart guy, painfully, sickeningly smart guy. Some incredibly self-possessive delusion that everything needs to make sense. He is unbelievably just re- like so unbelievably blind to the fact that nothing is obligated to make sense to him. He sits down and swears it needs to make sense. Basically, he swears if you microdose, you're going to just have epiphanies and everything's going to start making sense. I think he did one too many microdoses, but that's just me. Market, a nice short about basically stock market businesses, economy. Interesting stuff. I like that because I understand his views than mine because I don't think like them at all. We have Mashable Tech Spoken really short thing. One Masters in Business is another Bloomberg one. This one I find utterly interesting because this is sometimes like an hour-long interview with leaders and entrepreneurs about their personal life and their business life, not just, tell me why you're great, tell me why you're a genius kind of thing. You know, and the best ones are the ones where the people literally just admit, I just got lucky. I just happened to be there at the right time. What really is. Next, we have Material, one of the most scummy podcasts I've ever listened to. The ads are completely disingenuous, um, and they're relentless type of ads. They're not even like they literally like record the ads and then insert the ads into the show, so you literally hear like noise differences and voice differences. So it's like really hackery bad. To me, the perfect example of for the ads obviously don't listen to the show because if they did, they would literally pull the ads. That's how bad they are. It's with Flo and Andy Anako, two of again the most annoying journalists I think I've ever listened to. to be honest, so I know how not to think, how not to talk, and how not to believe. Listen to them. The mini PC show. We have Mobile Tech Girl, Tank Girl. Again, somebody who obviously never dog foods and listens to their own show. Early, the show starts with somebody else saying, "Welcome to Mobile Tech Podcast with Tanko, Marion Giral." And then she immediately starts every show with, "Welcome to Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm Tanker, Marion Giral." It's like, we just heard it. She obviously doesn't even listen to her own show. Dog food, and then remarkably better. All about mobile tech, everything from Teslas to phones to cameras. And she has seasoned and knowledgeable about these kind of things. She's one of the people who I have to listen to. Funny back to back. The next one is Mobile Tech. This has the Kevin Toffel, book guy, and Matt Miller, like the Android mobile guy. Doing this for many, 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 many years. They are two, I will say, of the smartest guys podcasting. Thing is crap. And that's I'll say this, the best thing about that show is if something does not meet their expectations, they literally have no problem. It does not meet expectations, and they will not hide anybody, kind of thing. Then we have MRP Tech Podcast. Died. I really would like it if my hard drive died could come back, but it's not. Throwback reviews. Sean Johnson again, and Flack, O'Hare, talking about old things from the 80s and stuff. Just good time. Plus, interesting retro podcast where once a show they go back in time and they review a game and they say, does it like hold up over time? For me, it's one of those good podcasts to listen to just to be reminded about games that I never saw. News Hour, BBC one, Nintendo dual screens. That is one that I actually paid for sponsorship before. They were such nice guys, kind of thing. Show about all kinds of Nintendo stuff. And here comes the Nintendo of podcast. Power Podcast. That one is maybe one of the best I listen to. I believe that's the one with Tom Tate. And then we have Nintendo Power Time Podcast. Again, that's another really good one. Pulse is one with Rez. I will say that he's a really nice guy. That is, again, one of the better Nintendo podcasts out there. We have Nintendo Switchcraft, Bill from Nintendo Switchcraft. Again, that's one of the best Nintendo podcasts out there, period. Really nice guy. Does like kind of know what he's talking about. I hope everything's being recorded good. Okay, then we have Nintendo Voice Chat. That's the IGN like official one. Listen to. Okay, and I will say Nintendo Power Podcast. That's the official Nintendo one. Our Time Podcast. Tom Tate. It's absolutely fantastic. Unbelievably nice guy. Dumb Questions, which has two of the dumbest guys I've ever listened to do a show. And I say that because I know they're both uncommonly smart, ridiculously smart. Listen to the podcast and they always say some of the stupidest things I've ever imagined. OA News Over Audio. Nice, really quick blurb of just news. Done. Out of the Ordinary. Another BBC one. This is like a more of a deep dive into things. Interesting is what I'll say. The P&L Paul with Paul Sweeney and Romeritz, another Bloomberg podcast. Then we have Patreon, one I have there. Penn's Sunday School, Penn Gillette, going into all kinds of things, personal belief, his life, his experience, people he finds interesting. It's a good window into him, I'll say. Pessimist Archive podcast. This is one of the best podcasts I think I've listened to. Back into history, and they tell you about things I have no idea. The example I use is like the conspiracy. Back when margarine was created, the butter industry went ballistic on margarine, calling it everything from like the work of the devil, poisoning and killing everybody kind of thing. Just what they did. It's all kinds of episodes about that, like that, going good stuff. A Planet Money, that's an NPR one. Interesting content. Again, that one at least is like different perspectives about things that I never even thought to look at. In History X, I wish they would come out with more episodes. Family friendly show, period. But they would literally go into the messed up things that happened back in history. Very good show. Podcasting news, podcaster, borderline scummy. Yeah, I got no problem saying that. Borderline scummy, but at the same time, some really good content that I need to listen to. Repair, Podnutz Daily, Podnutz Pro, Reasonably Sound. Sound is really interesting. It's Joe from like PBS YouTube videos for years. Sound is deep dives into things that I never even thought dive. Apply All is a fantastic show. A lot of it seems to be about social engineering, exploited and things like that, and then like actually communicating with the people that are doing like the actual exploiting. Retro Res TV. I'm not sure that one's even being done anymore. I keep it in my feed just because. Retro RGB Weekly Roundup is a fantastic podcast. Really nice guy, all about retro gaming, retro consoles, retro screens, retro events. I consider to be a goal is literally to record the history of gamings and how they change society kind of thing. Daily, really short podcast. Root Access, one of the most fantastic podcasts I listen to, period. Do come out. They literally open my eye about in the security world of computers and internet and like real world security. Run Jump Stomp, Bill from Nintendo Switchcraft, personal podcast, really nice guy, really good show. Science Magazine podcast sounds like is a podcast about. We have Science Versus. This one is quite annoying. The ads are quite bad. Feel like sometimes when I'm listening, the accent is almost just because they think it sounds cool, but with real accent. Um, Science Versus thing, which is to me anthropomorphizing the wrong thing. Okay, there's no verses, but they do science versus flat earthers or something versus anti-vaxxers kind of thing, and they say the facts and like which is which. The thing I do like about that show is they do citations just like Adam does. Things on the show as fact in the notes, and you can follow those links and see where they get their facts from. That is rare. Something like that. Sci-Fry, I think, is a really old podcast. I didn't know about it until recently. .com. Or the guy's name, who's the host of it. Unbelievably cordial, nice guy. Friday, you'll get between like 3 and like 12 just land in your feed. Listen to it. Science. SciShow Tangents is a reimagined, revamped show from the previous one. Oh, it had a lot of cussing in it. It's called. But this is basically the people from SciShow on YouTube talking about science things, trying to stump each other with science things. Joe, I'll say is I love it. Say they're going to break for an ad. bumper music and they ain't got no ad, and then the bumper music just comes right back on, you're right back into the show. I love it when cast are so incompetent even properly have the ad break when there's no ad. And there's at least 3 or 4 shows in this do that. Don't have an ad, don't say you're going to an ad break. It's not difficult. Or edit out it. It's not that difficult. I know. I edit shows all the time. Um say people cannot sit through that show because it started out literally being 15 minutes and now sometimes it's 2.5 hours. 40 minutes for him to get past everything of the show. Will say, um, he he is the exception of the rule. Guy who will never stop questioning himself. I gather, um, he is the kind. But if I could work alongside, I would benefit a lot from him, and I would try my best as much as he's benefiting me with thought processes. His show's a bit thick, sometimes hard to follow, which is why into Eric Sauce guy about possibly doing a security based Podnutz show, security now, security how, I think. Be like really basic security things. Where Gibson is a complete polar opposite. He is like completely propeller hat kind of thing. Didn't happen. Eric's busy guy. Skeptoid. I will say ads on that one most annoying. The guy's pompous, like arrogance, confidence is kind of annoying. Show interesting, so I listen. Security again, one of the examples of like horrible, like this is where they obviously don't care and they just shove an ad at you because they shove an ad at you. And neither of them seem like they actually understand security. Security journalists, security professionals. I could be wrong. Could be. I could be completely wrong. Show I get the impression regurgitating things more than actually comprehending things. Subscribe to the show because they talk about things that, and then I can go Google search and find more information about. Then we have Stadia Cast, one from Run Jump Stomp Bill, Stadia Cast, all about Google Stadia. Had the main guy from Google on it. And his name was Justice. Like now 3 or 4 Google Stadia podcasts out there I've listened to. Most of them really good. Ask really like smart questions, and his co-host is the guy from Res TV. As much from that show as I do from a kind of podcast, so I still listen. Star Talk Radio, Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about stuff. If you'll like Star Talk Radio, stuff to blow your mind, to back stuff you should know. They're both now it's megaphone from the How Stuff Works network. The thing I that network is they always have bumpers, background music. So as you're skipping through the ad, you don't have to listen to an ad. That's the nicest thing I can say about the show. Except for that, I'll say, guys, I believe it's all guys, and they go, or they do immense research. So I will keep listening to those shows. Linux Review. All you got to know is the main host Tony Bemis, one of the nicest Linux guys I think I've ever met. Period. And so I still listen to Sunday morning Linux review. Focus podcast. I believe that might be another one. Reviewers. Sysadmin Today podcast. Enterprise entrepreneur who's doing really enterprise grade work. Really, really smart guy. Tech meme ride home. Ride. I think my audio. Okay. Bumper music, and the whole time the ad is going, there's background music, and then when he not gonna lie, he, to be honest, love. I have no problem saying that. Really smart guy. I'll say good stuff. I like Bryce a lot. I like Tech Nibble a lot, but that no intro music, no nothing. It's literally just Bryce talking for like 40 seconds about a topic, stating facts, and then to remember about the MSP world. Otherwise, I cannot see my show. Then we have tech stuff. I'll say this again. I like the fact that the ads are bumpered in and nerds sitting around talking about geeks and nerds kind of thing. The Anthropocene Review. And he reviews them. And he gives them like scores like out of 5. And when he but really interesting show is what I'll say. Then we have the about discoveries in archaeology. You know, they found the town over and I can't remember the name of his co-host, but he's the other guy who does the podcast is. And next we have the Carson podcast. Wow. Record to do actual recording. I do not think so. Okay, so finally. Testing, testing. Man, I'm almost tempted to say that it might be safer to run this in the friggin' browser. Uh, this, click that. Dang. That is app keeps wanting to keep no good in that. Well, one leg went. Wow. Didn't even realize it went numb. I am a beverage holic. I am a beverage holic. When I bought bottled water, literally buy like 4 of like the biggest bottles I could possibly find in a day. Why does this cost as much as a soda cost? Because it most certainly shouldn't. Oh my goodness. I think it's literally the Discord app. Just, I don't know what it is. It's like a memory leak or something. You got a mail delivery. I'm not sure I tried to send an email to this email address, but okay. So I'm going to guess that's not real. I'm going to guess that's junk, garbage. Okay. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. Hey, Charles.
Hey, Dor.
How you doing?
Good.
Very cool.
Let's see. I just got out of playing VR for like 3 hours.
Gotcha, gotcha. See something. Okay, good. Yeah. I still think this is one of the smartest games. Okay. will say I like how this works. Oh man. Yeah, I still am going to get up. Oh, what are you having there? Hey.
Hello.
Yeah, technically I'm off work tomorrow. I'm still going to get up, I think, and do work, though. Still stuff that needs to be done.
Yep, I never get a day off of work due to weather. As long as there's internet, I'm working.
Right. Oh, yeah. I will say I am tempted to use some leave. I've been good, though. I haven't used leave.
I have like 1 day worth of leave left for the year. Besides starting next week, I'm taking the rest of the year off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
Gotcha. Yeah, sometimes I have to hit the little repair button on this mic.
You're still talking?
Don't know.
No, it should still be push to talk like it was last time. I have it bound to control still.
Okay. Yeah, so VR is interesting. I'm just glad that I don't get motion sick while I'm in it. Almost took out my laptop twice, though.
That's not
Because
good.
I don't really have enough room for VR properly to do it proper.
Right.
To do full room scale VR, you need at least 6 feet by 6.5 minimum. I would literally have to get rid of everything in my room to do that.
Right. My one buddy said, if you don't have the room, just go out in the yard.
We don't have a yard.
I was thinking, I don't know. You know, if you don't have
Yeah.
a fence, might not be good.
Yeah. Also, you have to kind of. Also, the sun is not a good place for those things. They don't work well in the sun.
Right.
Work actually has the proper VR setup, though they didn't mount the base stations properly. They mounted both of them on the same wall. You're not supposed to do that. They're supposed to be on the opposite corners.
Gotcha.
Especially if you're doing room scale. Because if you turn backwards, you have the controllers in front of you, the base stations can't see them.
I still haven't played any kind of VR games, but I don't have the equipment.
Yeah, I got it on Black Friday or Cyber Monday. I got the Vive Pro for the cost, the Vive Pro starter kit for the price of the Vive Pro alone. So it was like $800.
Ooh, yeah, that's a lot. Just a game.
Yeah, also, that's about as much as I paid for my laptop.
And the thing that goes along with it is we were talking in Discord earlier about your hardware. Like, it's not just the VR stuff you're getting, but you better have the
Yeah.
video card and everything else to power it.
Yeah, you at least need
Well,
like.
You can get the Oculus Quest where it's all in the one. It's all in the device. You don't need any computer, and it's like, I think $400, $300.
Yeah, but Facebook.
Yeah, you're right. I kind of forgot about because I don't keep up with this technology.
Vive has their own version of the Quest, their own Inside Out, the Cosmos, which is their own Inside Out tracking.
What happened to like Google Cardboard? Wasn't that the cheapest one?
Oh yeah, by far.
I have a Daydream headset lying around somewhere. That was the biggest waste of $99.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they only had, I want to say, was it like only like 4 devices like actively like even said that they supported it, but it did support like I want to say 10 or 15 devices.
I have the Pixel 2 XL, so I know mine was supported. I don't use it because you have to have your screen clean as like you have to have your screen really clean in order for it to work properly.
Gotcha.
Oh, no greasy sausage fingers allowed.
Nope.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
also
it's made
also
out
the
of
Vive
fabric.
also the Vive Pro that I got. It's the one with the Vive Pro headset, but it doesn't come with the current gen wands or base stations. So I'm like years behind on the VR on the controls. But still worth it because that was the price of the headset alone.
I'm wondering if it's ever going to gain critical mass, or is it just going to remain this niche thing?
Wait until March. You'll figure out in March or whenever Valve time happens.
Oh, well, Valve time. That yeah, okay, so you mean March 10 years from now?
Whenever Half-Life Alyx releases. Because that's gonna be like sometimes I wish I got the Vive Pro, or not the Vive Pro, the Valve Index, which is their VR setup, which is Steam's VR setup, which my work actually has. Of which they actually ran out. Like they're not selling any more Valve Index kits. They won't ship until February 2020.
uh, yeah, Cody Cooper from in Lunch for the Rest of Us. He lives up by Salem, Oregon. He sent me a picture yesterday. He went to a thrift store
Mm.
and he literally got in the thrift store. Oh man, I think I deleted it. It was the original version of the Steam controller, which you
Oh wow.
which like you could never buy. Yeah, he like got it from a thrift store. I was like, wow.
I'm upset with Valve because they ran out of stock on the Steam controllers.
Well,
Yeah, and also all the Steam VR stuff is out of stock.
yeah, pretty sure there's a
So
reason for that. Like the same reason why the Steam boxes, you know, are out of stock.
that's because the Steam boxes are discontinued. The Valve Index is not discontinued.
Yeah, because nobody buys them. That's why.
Uh, the reason why they're out of stock is because of the Half-Life Alyx announcement.
Mm.
I
Everyone,
still go
everyone
ahead.
and their dog wants to play that. We've been waiting how many years for another Half-Life game?
Still not Half-Life 3.
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a tease, just to rake in some money.
Though on the bright side, if I ever want to try a Valve Index, they have it at work, so always take a lunch break and head over there. I have my only key set up with my Steam account.
I still have the Steam Link hooked up to my TV. I love that thing.
Yeah, so they have the Valve index, and I have my only key, which has my Steam login that I can just plug it in. It types in my Steam password, enter the two-factor auth code, and then I can play my VR titles.
Yeah, there's a link. That's not his picture, but that is the exact picture that that's like the exact device he sent me. I'm like, what the hell is that? I've never seen that before.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he got it in like a friggin' thrift store.
Wow.
Yeah, I will say I have a Steam controller. Um, it is by far the ugliest damn controller I think I've ever imagined in my life.
Wow.
But in your hand, the damn thing just feels like it belongs there.
I
Yeah,
read through so many comments on it, and it's so many people saying conflicting things. Some people love it, some people hate it.
I personally prefer a PS4 controller. At least when it comes to like platformers and fighting games. Racing, I'd rather have an Xbox One controller.
Yeah, I have several of the DualShock 4. I also have at least one DualShock 3, and I have a couple Xbox One controllers.
Yeah, I know the Xbox One is the one that seems like everyone screams about being the most solid one.
I would say it's a toss-up between the PS4 and the Xbox One. The only reason why I'm on the Xbox One a bit more is for the button prompts to match up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I own an Xbox One and PS4. I used the PS4 more recently.
Well, see, that's the irony for me. I don't own either of the consoles, but I have multiple controllers for both.
I used to own like 2 PS4 controllers before I got the PS4.
Another thing I will say is I would say the PS4 controller is the best controller you could use for RetroPie.
Yes, definitely. Oh yeah, I also got my PS Vita, which can run RetroArch.
Yeah, I remember you were talking about that last week.
Yeah. The one thing that worries me is the fact that it's an OLED display. And that it's a first-gen OLED display. And it already has black spots on it when it's this dark gray.
I'm sure you'll probably still get plenty more life out of it.
Yeah. Eventually, I'm probably going to buy another one, the Vita 2000 model, as like a separate use one. And keep the 1000 for specific game titles.
The only hardware I've gotten recently is I did get that 256 gig micro SD I was talking to you guys about. That's in my phone
Nice.
now, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I have a 256 gig card right now. Don't have a use for it though.
Oh, we had this conversation before. I was like, put it in your phone, and you're like, my phone doesn't have a micro SD slot.
Nope.
See, that's the hill that I'm willing to die on. If I'm buying a phone, that thing better have a micro SD slot.
Oh, good luck with that now.
I don't care. I'll just keep on buying old refurbished phones or whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
What's funny is you could probably fit the entire PS Vita library on a 256 gig card.
No, that's exactly the point. Like, I have this conversation with my friends, and I say, like, okay, you can fit the entire Super Nintendo library within like 1 gigabyte. You can fit the entire Game Boy Advance library within like 10 gigabytes. I have thousands of games on my phone.
Right.
And then people say, "Why you don't need all those games on your phone. You're not going to play them." And I say, "No, it's because I can. They're always
Yep.
there." And believe me, it will come in handy. Like, just a few weeks ago, I went to get my tires rotated.
Yeah.
Took them 4 hours to rotate my tires. You think I wasn't happy that I that I had so many games on my phone?
Yeah, I need. The only thing is that with the PS Vita, it takes forever for anything to download to it.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about that. Like, doesn't it have some kinda earlier wireless standard, something like that?
Yeah, and the max you can get is like 2 megabytes down.
You need one of those cool adapters that Door's talking about that turns the micro USB to a Ethernet. That probably wouldn't really work, but it'd be good if it did.
Yeah, you have to have the kernel support.
Yeah, my phone can do USB mass storage. So I think it can only do exFAT. Or FAT32, I'm not completely sure.
Oh, that reminds me of another tangent side story. Remember when I was talking about my dad said he dropped his phone and portions of the screen went dead?
Yeah.
Well, so I got to see that on person. I'm not sure if I talked about this in Discord. He he was describing it right. There's portions of his screen that were responding to touch and other portions that didn't. I'd never seen something like.
Yeah, my son, my oldest, dropped the his phone, and it's like there's a corner of the screen where he can't touch, and he's like really mad.
Yeah, this was this was at least one corner and then sort of the middle of the screen all the way down. But the good news is that was also the Moto E4, not even the Plus, but
Oh,
the E4 that cost $40 and it lasted him 2
I
years.
Wow.
I've used multiple when I first got before I got my Pixel. That was the phone that I would use before I got the X4. I had like the Moto E4, another Moto E4, and a Moto E4 Plus.
Yeah, he got some good use out of it.
Very slow phones
Well,
compared to the Pixel.
yeah, but they just work.
Yeah, when you're 60 years old and you're not doing much, I don't think it matters.
Yeah. And also, I had a custom ROM on them.
Is there a ROM for the E4 or you mean the
Yep.
E4 Plus?
There's one for the E4 Plus. I think it's the same code base, though. I was talking with. I was talking with the developer, and it seems like there is potential to have it ported over to the E4, and there is custom ROMs for the E4, but I think it breaks 4G. Last time I tried, this was like years ago.
Yeah, I know when I got it for him, it was about Christmas 2 years ago, and I don't believe I saw any custom ROM available, but I wasn't too worried about putting a custom ROM on there anyway, because last time I was trying to do ROMs, I've just got a bad taste in my mouth from custom
Yeah.
ROMs.
It's 2017.
Yeah, I'll say
Yeah.
they either don't work at all, or there's always one thing that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you can probably attest to me like randomly complaining to you about stuff through the years. Like I had the custom ROM on the Galaxy S5 that like broke all cellular connectivity.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had I guess it wasn't a ROM issue, but I had the thing with I got a brand new shrink wrapped Moto G4, and for whatever reason that couldn't be activated, but I already had the ROM on it, and I had to try to send it back after I had flashed a custom ROM, and
Yeah. I actually run Bliss OS on a micro SD card, which is Android on x86. Android Pie, to be exact. It works pretty well. You have to have it render with Vulkan, though, and some apps do crash like Chrome on occasion.
you're talking about that's something you do with a PC, like with a x86.
Yep. I pop it into my laptop and I put my laptop in tablet mode.
Yeah, I've never tried to emulate Android.
Yeah, I'm extremely. I mean,
It's not emulation, though. It's Android compiled for x86.
yeah, basically, it isn't supposed to work right because it doesn't have. Android is always looking for all the sensors, all the input, magnetometer, camera, gyroscope, everything else. So it's it's almost never a good experience.
Yeah, works well enough for me.
The best version of that, I guess, was the remix, right? That I guess is no longer a thing.
Yeah, it's pretty dead.
Mm.
I will say when Remix worked good, it worked unbelievably good. And I still have the tablet upstairs and, still works.
Mm.
Still get, I want to say about 16 hours battery life, I think.
You're talking about the Jide, right?
Yep. Jide Remix Ultra tablet.
Mm.
I can't hear that name without laughing because of it's become such a meme on tilts.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I remember Dan was so mad the escape key wasn't an escape key.
Oh, they already have a build that's based on Android 12. Or not 12, 10.
Now, when they say 4 PCs, what kind of PC are we talking about?
Mm. So any x86.
Yeah. Basically, any laptop, any desktop.
And they also have a specific. They have special builds for the Surface devices.
Well, that's smart.
Technically, my laptop, if someone wanted to, my work laptop, someone could implement the gyro and everything, or at least the orientation sensors. Because I know in Linux it's able to detect orientation.
Sensor support in Linux. That's impressive.
Usually it's an issue because You'll have a hard drive that has an orientation sensor, and it'll cause your screen to randomly rotate.
Yeah. That's always fun.
I usually have it locked anyways.
Yeah, same thing with me with Android. I almost always have it locked, unless it's my phone.
Same. Though Android x86 works well enough for me to use Google Playbooks, so that's what really matters. And I can play video on it. And it has the Google Play Store. And root.
Root is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's using Super SU and not Magisk, which pisses me off.
Oh no, China gonna steal all your data.
It's just Super SU is old. Super SU is the older root solution. It's no longer maintained.
I'm guessing you guys saw this, but I saw news that Lineage OS is no longer supporting their own built-in root system. They're only supporting Magisk as root.
No.
Hmm.
Did not know.
Yeah, I guess that Magisk was the more popular option anyway, but they did have root just built into Lineage OS, but not anymore.
Mm.
Well, there's certain things that, doesn't want you to have root.
Yeah, I have Magisk on the G4 right now, and that's my first experience with
Mm.
Magisk over the Super SU.
Yeah.
The modules are nice. You can just install the root version of YouTube Advanced right from within Magisk, and it's pretty good about updating and not breaking itself or breaking your phone.
Mm. Nikon Z series cameras are getting raw video support. I don't know how insane you would have to be to record in raw video, but that'll soon be an option for anyone with the C6 and the C7 and the Z7. Both really expensive cameras.
Yeah, I don't know anything about cameras.
I just know they're expensive.
Hmm.
And in
Well,
the
that's
EU, if you film more than 29 minutes and 59 seconds, and then the camera costs like 3 times the amount.
Yep. And that's why we can't have nice things in the US or anywhere else. Because then it gets classified as a camcorder,
Right.
which is complete bullshit. Or because there is no physical limitation. Hell, with some Canon cameras, you can put custom firmware on them that removes that limitation.
flashing custom firmware on a camera. That is some hackery.
Yeah.
It just runs off the SD card.
Has anybody gotten sued over that yet?
It's open source.
And I'm sure if Canon could patch it, they would.
It's only on their older cameras, I think.
Well, that's usually how those things go. You either put out an updated model that is no longer exploitable, or you push a security update that closes the loophole.
Right.
Mm. Yeah, I'm already $500 in on my camera. Of which, if I switch camera manufacturers, I have to get all new lenses, which aren't cheap.
Right. I can't believe they still do that.
Each manufacturer having their own lens type.
Yeah. You thought by now they would have some kind of
There's
workaround
adapters.
trick.
There are adapters that will work. If you have autofocus is a whole nother question. Oh. Because most likely you aren't going to have autofocus if you do that.
Right.
And Nikon is pretty much losing out on the camera market. Sony just passed them not too long ago.
Really, Sony.
Yep. Sony makes some nice cameras, mirrorless cameras.
I know they were big back in the day, but I haven't heard their name said for a while.
They still make decent cameras.
Still
Though
making.
Though
Go
they
ahead.
only make mirrorless, they don't make DSLRs.
I was thinking of that statistic Door quoted a while back. I was going to say, are they still making the most of their money off of life insurance?
Oh yeah. They're making insane money. I want to say the last time I looked at it, it was something like out of all of their companies combined, like the top 15 companies inside of Sony, they don't make as much money as their insurance.
Wow.
Yeah, insurance is a good business to be in.
Oh, it's a great racket because at any time you can just say, we don't feel like paying out.
Well, that's the whole entire their number one priority is to not pay you.
Right. By all means necessary.
Yeah,
And I
30 a 35mm lens for Sony cameras will run you $750.
Oh my goodness.
A 60mm to 55 f2.8mm f-stop 2.8 will run you $1,300.
And this is why I see people complain when you say, "Hey, can you come shoot my wedding for free?"
Right.
Yeah, because camera gear ain't cheap. Not at all.
But I have a phone. All you're doing is basically taking pictures. That's the same thing I can do with my phone. Just do it for free.
Yeah. Oh god, there's a lot more that comes to taking photos than what you can do on your phone. Oh man. Like getting the lighting just right, adjusting everything properly, making sure stuff doesn't come out blurry. Damn.
One of the subreddits that I like to follow, if you've never checked it out, it's called Choosing Beggars. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's basically just a subreddit where people post funny content of the people who message them basically trying to get stuff for free. And a lot of it is art-based stuff, including photography.
It's probably never-ending content.
Oh yeah, they got new posts every day. A lot of Facebook Marketplace stuff on there too. Like people, so somebody will go try and sell their Xbox on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and they show screenshots of messages where people are like, "Yeah, but can you just give me the Xbox for free and deliver it?"
Oh god.
And then they say no, and then the person always tries to come up with more of a story, and they're like, "No, but it's for my son and he needs it."
Right.
Oh god.
Yeah, people will say anything. I still like the subreddit. What could go wrong? That's where stupid people trying stupid things, and bad things happen.
Yeah, that's an example of a photo that I take. That actually isn't the original photo, that's the edit that I made in Photoshop. Of which that's also a pain in the butt as well. Doing proper edits in Photoshop.
I'm guessing that I don't know what character I'm supposed to be looking at.
Danganronpa.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Pretty much all the characters and the stuff that I do, no one would know.
But there was that chance, so I had to ask.
Actually, I want to go to my drive. I am so glad that I have Google Drive file stream, because I take gigabytes of photos every time I do a photo shoot I do a cosplay event or something, or go to a convention. With Drive file stream, I can just upload it all and not have to worry about it.
I know here in North Carolina we have at least one big anime convention that I'm aware of where people cosplay, and then there are some other smaller ones too, but I've never been to one.
Yeah, I'm going to Anime Boston next.
The one here that I know of, I believe it's called Animazement.
Oh man, I forgot I posted this image earlier in the NSFW chat. The Kermit one.
Ah,
Uh, yeah,
we
and
don't
also
have porn. I like to keep it that way.
Yeah, and also Photoshop cost me $10 a month as well.
What about GIMP?
I need a full solution, so I need like Adobe because I'm shooting RAW format. GIMP cannot edit in RAW natively.
I know the thing I've heard about Photoshop is that everybody pirates Photoshop until they can afford it, and then you just buy it.
I can afford it easily.
Well, yeah, if you're buying $500 lenses or whatever, it sounds like maybe you
I've
can
only
afford that
spent like
subscription.
$200 on lenses. By $500 in, I meant I've spent $500 total on this camera.
Well, in Photoshop now, you can just buy Creative Suite and just pay, what is it, $10 a month?
Yep, $10 a month for Lightroom, Photoshop, and that's it.
Yeah.
Also, I have to pay for Zoho Social, which is how I automate my Instagram posts.
You just got to pay like some dude in a third world country to sign into your email and
Yeah.
do it for you. Maybe
Nope.
that's what it is. Maybe that's what you're paying
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
No. But the reason why I pay for Zoho Social is because literally everything else is more expensive and doesn't have all the features that I need. Like how Salesforce has their own social media platform.
Salesforce.
That's yeah. I want to crawl up in a hole and die every time I have to deal with it.
Java. That's why I hate it. Java.
Oh God.
And when I tell Salesforce developers I don't like it because it's Java, they say, it isn't Java. I'm like, well, then you don't know what the hell you're doing.
I have to deal with the data side of it.
I will say I got lucky. There's a lot I don't have to deal with inside of it.
Yeah.
Because if I did, I'm pretty sure I'd quit.
I've had to ETL stuff from it. And writing Salesforce queries is not fun. Not fun at all.
Right.
There's so much like
Hmm.
social media and marketing stuff nowadays. I kind of just want to have like a website where I just yell at the wall and nobody hears it.
Right.
I already have one of those. FSUJ sits for 3.b. I haven't posted to it in a long time. And I still need to build it out.
I remember a long time ago we were talking about the Door. I was talking to you about how cheap like some of those DigitalOcean things are, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, I should just pay like $5 a month and get one of those droplets to play around with.
Yeah, the thing I like about DigitalOcean is you can literally just spin up, spin down whenever you need it, and you don't get charged if it isn't spun up.
Yeah. You get charged for the time that it was spun up.
Hmm.
And one thing that interested me is it seems like a good way to roll your own static VPN, not for any copyright violation purposes, but for general privacy purposes.
Should work.
Well, I trust it a heck of a lot more when I own the thing instead of going through some dubious service.
Right.
Hmm.
But somebody's always going to see it. That's
Yep.
inherently the problem.
Yeah. Unless, of course, you're like using the Gopher protocol or something that
Hmm.
everything just forgot about.
I've never even heard of that. I don't know what Gopher is.
It's almost like FTP, kind of like you would connect to the main server, and then you would see like it wasn't really directory structures. It was like almost like what Yahoo, um, like their original, what the hell were they called? The groups were named, where you would go in like browse through categories, kind of thing. Um, Firefox just dropped support for it like 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, like I'm sure it wasn't secure. I know that.
I just realized I own like $60. I pay like $60 a year in domains at least. Actually, probably pay like closer to 80.
I don't own any domains, but I'm going to take a wild guess that Door pays more than that for Podnutz stuff.
How much do you say?
About 80.
A year?
Yep.
Uh, close. It's close to that.
Yeah, my .com domain cost me $12 a year. My SCJs for 30.me, that's 20. Surat.me, that's another 20. Danganronpa.me, that's another 20. 20, 40, 60, 80. Because Cosplay.me, that's 80. So I'm at like 92 a month, 92 a year.
Yeah, I'll say if I paid HostGator what HostGator wanted me to pay them,
Mm,
I would be paying them $300 a month.
ouch.
Yeah, they like keep trying to tell me that I'm using too much bandwidth, I'm using too much disk space, I'm using too much processor, I'm using, you know, they just keep saying I'm using too much everything.
Wow.
Well, that's
Yeah,
one way to measure engagement.
Well, and the last time I went and looked at the actual logs, it said I was using 10 terabytes every month. I kept thinking,
that can't
oh,
be right.
I kept thinking, well, I'll just say this.
Mm,
If you look at certain statistical things, it says Android AppX gets 20,000 downloads an episode.
wow.
So I don't know.
Yeah. And I have some domains that I'm gonna let expire that I got for cheap. Because what was it that had cheap domain names?
Name cheap.
Not name cheap. I think it was GoDaddy that had cheap domain names recently. Oh, wait, what was it? It wasn't. Let's see. It wasn't GoDaddy. Oh, it was GoDaddy.
Yeah, I'm happy to say I never gave them a dime. I helped people who paid them money and went into their interface and thought to myself, I'm never going to give this company money.
Yeah, I only did it so that I could get the domains for cheap and transfer them out when I'm done.
I just looked back over to YouTube. Are you doing some emulation, Door?
Just a touch. Playing the old WrestleFest arcade game.
Well, this kind of answers one of the questions I was thinking about from last stream, because I was thinking, I wonder, if he would play emulation of an old game, is he going to get the ban hammer?
Well, I'll just say I know too many people now that do stream what's obviously emulation, and they don't get anything done to them. And I'm like shocked. I can't believe it.
I guess if you use audio, it's easier for them to like scan for a clip of a song and DMCA that.
I don't know.
It's weird because I remember this was years ago, but I remember that being a concern on SoundCloud, where people would put up DJ mixes on SoundCloud, and then sometimes you would get a DMCA because you're using all these other songs in your mix, but it only happened to some people and not other people.
Right.
And I think part of that was, I don't know the secret method on the back end, but I think part of that is they actually scan through everything and match up the waveform somehow, something like that.
I believe it.
But the thing about DJing is, more often than not, you're playing something that's just a little bit pitched up or a little bit pitched down to
Right.
match up better. And one of the trends you'll see on YouTube is, even if if somebody's getting all kinds of copyright strikes for the regular song, you'll see this other channel over here that they pitch it up just a little bit, and that doesn't get taken down
Right.
because obviously that technique doesn't count.
Yeah, there's all kinds of little tweaks they do. It is like the cat and mouse.
But that part is for audio. Now, for trying to catch somebody emulating a video game, I don't know if quote unquote AI or anything else is there yet.
I don't know.
Maybe it's a mix. Maybe slowly these companies just aren't caring as much, which they shouldn't care anyway. It's free
Well,
publicity.
exactly. There's no money loss.
There's only money to gain if they copyright claim it and monetize the video on you.
Well, but that's the thing. My channel is non-monetizing, so even if they do a copyright claim and say we want to earn all the revenue, they don't get any revenue.
Because he's not commercially viable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I have to wait until next month before I can transfer my domain out of GoDaddy. Because this was like dirt cheap, like $3-4 for a year of the domain.
That is good price.
For a .me domain, that's cheap. Like,
Yeah, did you hear about the .org fiasco?
no.
Apparently there's company. Well, .org was supposed to be, an org thing. Private
Yeah.
company has basically gone around and they're basically trying to buy every single .org domain.
Wow. Yeah, I paid $3.49 for the .me domains through GoDaddy. Not bad.
Is that how this whole system works, where you're always buying the domain from somebody who happened to think to snatch it up before you?
Nope.
Nowadays, I think so. I mean, what's left to buy?
Stuff that I use. Like dangandcosplay.me, dangandropa.me, which I'm surprised. .me domains are pretty easy to get for some reason. Someone wants $1,200 for my last name.com.
You gonna fork out the cash for that one?
Nope, I'm waiting for it to expire and then I'm gonna buy it. Because if they don't renew it, then I can get it for cheap. That's actually how I own the domain scj643.com. Is some jerk on the internet decided to buy that and redirect it to a YouTube video. Yeah, I was not happy about that.
Well, I don't know. It all depends on what kind of video we're talking about.
Not a good one.
Yeah, this was the kind of game back in the day. I would always try to put a quarter in and just try to see how far I could get, and I couldn't. This was not an easy game.
Oh, you gotta love that Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, the only thing is where I have my domains, they're not cheap. Because Google Domains is not the cheapest registrar out there.
No.
I use them because it makes my life a lot easier, though. Though if I have a .com domain, I will use Cloudflare because they only charge the registration fee.
Right.
I've been using their DNS for a
Yep.
With the Pi-hole, have you guys set up encrypted DNS?
Mine keeps breaking.
Mm.
I'll just all of a sudden I'll try to go to the web portal and it just won't work.
You mean with or without encrypt? Just in general?
Yeah, just in general. I've had to reset it like 3 times in the last, I guess, like 4 months. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Mine doesn't break that I'm aware.
Well, I believe it was the graphical thing was broke, but it was still, doing DNS just fine.
Oh, okay, just your web interface
Yeah.
part. This probably sounds bad, but I'm so lazy that I rarely check the web interface or the Pi-hole at all.
Well, and see, that's the thing. I break everything. Even like my Octoprint server. The reason I have to flash the damn OS is because I'm the stupid guy who every couple days will SSH into it and do an app get update upgrade, and it's like, why are everyone else is like, why are you doing that? It just works. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, that's usually the route that I go for my Pi devices. Especially when this stuff isn't really exposed to the outside internet.
Right.
Yeah, for a .com domain, Cloudflare only wants $8.03 a year.
Wow.
Yep. That's what, though they don't do .me domains, which sucks.
Now, I will say for the updates on an actual full-blown PC running Linux, I do try and like you said, every few days I'm always doing the apt update.
For me, it's DNF. Since I'm a Fedora user.
All right, I'm gonna kill the live stream side. Oh, damn leg fell asleep again.
Oh, I hate that.